Hey guys, it's Gote here. Before the video begins, I just want to say that if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and do that. It's free and it really helps me out as well as my channel. And also, if you want to leave a comment to kind of tell me what you specifically want me to make a video of, it would really help me out. Right now I'm stuck on gauging what my audience wants based on analytics, and I just want a more personal relationship with my audience and have you guys tell me what you want as well. And also, if you have any stories of your own you would like for me to share, please do not hesitate to send that to me via my personal email, linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to include that in a future video. So, without further ado, let's get right into this video. So I just checked onto my shift. As I turned my patrol car on, my radio was in mid-broadcast about an accident just outside the city I work in. I voluntarily checked en route to help out the best I could. While heading there, I was informed that it was actually closer to the next city over, but that I would still be the first one there. I was then told it was a head-on collision. I arrived on scene about a minute later. It was in fact a head-on collision. 5 people from one vehicle were not wearing seatbelts. All 5 were fatally injured beyond measure. There was nothing I could ever possibly do for these people. A doctor showed up on scene shortly after me, actually. Nothing he could do either. I watched 2 adults and 3 children die in front of my eyes. The 6-year-old little girl just stared at me, unblinking, as she passed. I still get emotional about that one. They were students of our elementary school. I knew them because I routinely go to that school just to see the little kids and give them all junior police stickers, take pictures with them, and let them play with my gadgets and police car. I went to the memorial service that the school put on for the girls and paid my respects. Their father was there and didn't know who I was or that I was the first one there or what I had actually seen. He was talking to another father, clearly in between denial and anger phases, about how he wished he knew what officer it was on scene so he could kill him for not doing anything, and why didn't he do anything, and blaming me for their deaths. That was really hard to hear. I wish I was a superhero and could have had magic powers to save those poor children. I'm sorry, little ones. You deserve to live your lives. So this kid had drowned at a local pool, so I had to tag along with the ambulances for an investigation. I got there first and saw his father holding him, crying, and my heart sank. I ran over there and tried to perform CPR to the best of my ability for about 10 minutes before the ambulance finally arrived. He woke up right as it pulled onto our street. I proceeded to visit him in the hospital, and now he swears he wants to be a police officer. That's one of my better stories. I'm an ex-police officer from NSW, Australia here. This one guy had died in a motorcycle accident, and what we found after, I will never forget. So after contacting the scene, we went to deliver the death message to his girlfriend. After reading the collision report, a truck driver stated that the man just pulled straight out in front of him like a deliberate suicide attempt. Very strange, but if it was suicide, that was definitely the answer. So the girlfriend was not answering the door, so we decided to make a forced entry. Inside of the house, we found major signs of distress. The shelves of the fridge were on the kitchen floor. So, curiously, we opened the fridge, and in there we discovered multiple pillowcases filled with her cut up and dismembered body. That was certainly an oh shit moment. So my older brother is a police officer. He got a call about a suicidal teenager behind a school with a knife. So he rolls up on scene, and when the kid notices him, he immediately starts hacking at his own neck with a knife. My brother instinctively sprints over to him and just tases him. He ended up saving the kid's life. It's all on body cam, actually. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. So I just started my shift and I pulled up on a teenager sleeping in a vehicle at the end of a country road. When I ran the license plate number, I found out that he was a reported runaway. The doors of the vehicle were locked, so I knocked on the window to wake him up. For some reason, when he woke up, he realized what was going on, and I don't know what was going through his head. He ended up shooting himself in the mouth with a rifle he had hidden under his blanket. That was definitely a rough way to start my shift. So my brother had committed suicide, and the cop who was called to the scene has reached out to us many times over the years. He cut him down and tried to save him. My mom actually once made the remark, imagine if we had to cut him down. Thank you, police officers, for handling the worst of society. We love and appreciate you very much. So, this incident happened August of last year and was about 1 to 2 in the morning when a 911 hang-up call came in where all that was heard was screaming and swearing. I was the closest unit at that time, riding alone as my partner was elsewhere. So when I got out into the area, I was initially waiting for backup to arrive. It was at that time that I heard several voices screaming. So I ended up rushing into the house without my backup, and the first thing I noticed was blood. Blood everywhere. The floor, the walls, the door, all covered to shoulder height. A distraught woman screamed and pointed me towards the living room. Once I got into the living room, I see a male and female on the couch, both covered completely in blood. The male had a massive laceration on his right forearm, and the female had taken a belt and snake wrapped it around his arm to try and stop the bleeding. Seeing how the belt was applied, I knew it wasn't doing anything to stop the blood flow. Actually, it was probably squeezing more out. So I pulled out my tourniquet and as I prepped it, said to the guy, this is gonna hurt like hell, but it'll stop the bleeding, man. I applied the tourniquet just above the right of his bicep and knew it was on properly when he told me his hand had started to go numb. It was at that point that I noticed a deep gash on his tricep that went down to the bone. It took EMS about 15 minutes to get to the house, and the paramedic made it abundantly clear that had I not applied the tourniquet, the male would have bled out long before they were able to get there. In the end of it all, it turns out that the guy had come home drunk and forgot his keys, climbed up to the second-story window and punched his way into the house, with near-deadly results. People, if you're drunk, even if you're really drunk, just try to remember to use the front door, or at least break through a window, not a wall. So my dad is a newly retired cop, thank God, 30 years on the force. He has a couple gems that he's told me throughout his career. The last one is pretty sad, so if you don't have any type of suicidal tendencies, consider this a preemptive trigger warning. So while working as a patrolman, he had a couple of encounters with people high on PCP. So the first incident was a lady who cut out her entire anus and was proceeding to try and rip out her large intestine. She woke up the next day with no recollection of what had even happened. She'll have to be on a colostomy bag for the rest of her life. Another PCP story. This guy was butt naked in the middle of the road, sweating profusely. For those who don't know, PCP raises your internal body temperature, so people often get naked because they think they're hot. The guy used a broken glass bottle to cut his genitalia off, balls and everything. He ended up bleeding out before EMS could even arrive. So this last one is a sad one. So it was Thanksgiving morning, and my dad worked a night shift, and he was home by 6 a.m. I came to the kitchen to help cook for Thanksgiving and saw him staring off into space. Something was obviously bothering him. So it turns out there was a bad car accident, and the car had actually caught on fire. The woman inside was stuck because her seatbelt had melted onto her. My father went to pull her out and described how her skin had just crisped over, so When he pulled on her to free her, the skin just kind of peeled off, like peeling the skin off lasagna. They eventually got her out of the car, but she had suffered severe burns and was permanently disfigured. My father had actually ended up getting burned pretty bad on his arm, too. She ended up surviving, but took her own life about 6 months later. That one my dad couldn't ever really shake. I think he blames himself for not getting her out of the car sooner. That kind of headache comes with this job, I suppose. So this story isn't mine, but rather my brother-in-law's. So he gets a call that there's been an accident at a rather dark intersection that's pretty notorious for people speeding through. So he arrives on scene and finds out that he's the first one to get there, and that it's a really bad collision. He finds a 6-month-old infant thrown nearly 20 feet away from the car. The mother is dead. The infant's head looks like it's been hit with a sledgehammer, but he manages to find a pulse. He gives CPR to the baby, but the injuries are just too damaging. The baby dies in his arms. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish with the CPR, but I think finding a baby like that, you have to do something. Until today, he insists on car seats, as well as booster seats for kids until they're big enough. I don't think he's ever really gotten over that baby dying. I don't think he ever will. So this one is very disturbing and very sad. This isn't my story, but my drill instructors I had in basic training. So on her first shift as an MP, her first call was a mother who had gone absolutely crazy. She had schizophrenic tendencies and would fly off the handle sometimes, but the state found her eligible nevertheless to look after her children. She ended up biting the penis off of her 6-year-old son, then used it to choke and kill her baby. It was a total bloodbath. I don't know how you stay sane after that. Hey guys, it's Gote here. Thank you so much for listening. I know these police officer stories and EMS stories are pretty disturbing, but I think it's important to really have an appreciation for what these men and women go through on basically a daily basis. It's a very tolling profession. I myself am going to be going into this professional field in the future after I graduate from college, and I'm pretty scared of what I might come across, but I'll be sure to share any stories I have with you guys on here. But yeah, definitely, if you know anyone in the EMS field, in the law enforcement field, be sure to just go up to them and shake their hand, say thank you, give them a big hug, because they deal with stuff that we all have the luxury of never seeing. So, with all that said, if any of you have any personal stories of your own you would like for me to share, please do not hesitate to send them to me via my personal email linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to include them in a future video. So, thank you again all so much. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys in the next episode.